It's time for another Three Blind Mice Invitational. The Three Blind Mice, Lee at Time Riders Wee Little Cars, George at Hodge's Hot Wheels and Diecast, and Paul at Fat Guy Productions, have once again invited the community to participate in their monthly build. This month, it's the Hot Wheels 1970 Pontiac GTO Judge. It's a great looking little casting. Wasn't sure what I was going to do with it at first. Then I got this goofy idea based upon a rumor that I'm starting now that back in the day, back around 1970, 1971, the Partridge Family was a really popular TV show. And it said, or at least I'm saying, that Danny Bonaduce, who was on the show, loved this GTO. He wanted one of these. And, he was probably, like 11 years old, 12 years old at the time. And he wanted one of the cars. And, he was making a lot of money, but the people on the show weren't going to let him just have a car. Wasn't like he was David Cassidy, who was old enough to drive and was out rolling around in Lord knows what cars, chasing Lord knows how many women. This was the kid. This was Danny. Oh, wisecracking kid. But who knew? Who knew what Danny was like? And he wanted this car, and he knew this was a slick-looking car, and he was going to go out cruising for chicks. So I decided to make this one the Bonaduce edition of the GTO. So you'll see where we go with this. Stripped it, took it apart. As you see here, popped the wheels off. I had an idea what wheels I wanted to throw on it. And, it has a plastic base. Stripped it, drilled it out. Wanted to try these wheels. I bought a bunch of wheels. It was a deal on eBay. I can't remember how many sets of wheels. It was a lot. They basically worked out to $2 a set. They were great looking little wheels. I've tried to order some through Facebook, and that just didn't work. And this worked on eBay, as eBay always does. And threw those wheels on there. I liked the looks of the wheels. It had that 1970 style stance. So these wheels were perfect for this car. Of course, everybody kind of knows what kind of wheels I like on a car. So this body, I ended up doing a lot more work to the body than I typically do. I probably typically don't do enough work to the body, but I'm trying to get better. I'm learning as I go. I haven't been doing this all that long. I was thinking about that the other day. And it was about a year ago that I first saw videos of people working on Hot Wheels and Matchbox. One of the first ones I saw was Wheels and Things, and the other was Austin over at Diecast Resurrection. And I don't know, I saw that and decided, that looks like fun. It looks like a relatively inexpensive hobby. Looks like something that would keep my mind occupied, keep me off the streets. So it was around this time last year that I got on eBay, and I'm really busy this time of year each year with work. It's a very busy time of year, so I just ended up buying a bunch of cars off eBay and junk car lots. So I knew I wanted to try restoring them or customizing them. I wanted ones that were beat to hell generally, so I built up a pretty healthy pile of cars, but I didn't really start working on them until a little while later. And when I first started doing that, I started posting them on Instagram. Then after, I don't know, maybe about 8 weeks of doing different little builds on Instagram, then I got the crazy-ass idea to do a YouTube video and showed my Matchbox car collection from when I was a kid. And the rest is history, as they say. And speaking of history, let's get back to the Bonaduce edition. I'm still swearing this rumor's true, that he wanted one of these GTO judges. So, the body, I ended up filing down some areas and going over it with the Scotch-Brite pad, as you can see, and getting it nice and shiny. I'm still not airbrushing. I'm still rattle canning paint jobs. And this one I went with, as you'll see coming up here pretty soon, I went with my Army Painter white primer on this. I really like the Army Painter primers. I have both black and white, and both of them have worked exceptionally well. They're not very expensive. Well, they're not cheap, but they're not as expensive as some other primers out there. And I kind of like that fact. It's a nice big can for a good price. So I rattle can the primer on, and then I rattle can the paint. Oddly enough, this was just a Rust-Oleum white that I ended up using on this when I get to that, which hopefully you'll see here soon, because I think I'm about through working on the body. As you can see, I have painted it at this point. I had to wet sand it a little because some of the areas on the body, I had some small problems with the paint. So I wanted to sand those little areas out. So I got the body pretty much as I wanted it. And I shot it again with another coat of paint. And for this one, it's something I don't do often, but I knew I was going to try it. I've done decals, I believe, in one video before. I got a wild hair. I had some old... I have a bunch of decals because also in a moment of insanity or whatever during that period last year when I was stocking up on cars, I also got the crazy idea, why don't I get some decals the same way and just buy some junk lots of decals. So I got a bunch of old decals and stuff, but for this one I ended up not using those. I look at them always and they look like they might work out, and then it's like, oh, look at this online. And I find something that interests me, and that's kind of what happened on this. I saw the decals, and that's where the idea for the Partridge family came about. Now, Diecast Outcast, Brian over at the Diecast Outcast channel, he's talked about different things he's done. Brian comes up with some of the craziest ideas on stuff, and they're great ideas. They're things you just don't think of. And one of those was using stencils from fingernail, when people have their fingernails painted. And I don't recall if he used decals for fingernails as well, but I know it made me think of those decals. He might have done it as well. And these were actually fingernail decals. And when I saw the pattern, yeah, I know I did an eBay search for fingernail decals. And you would be amazed at what comes up. Truly amazed. And so I saw these. I had to get them because I thought this is going to be the Bonaduce GTO judge. So they came really quickly. And I used microset to put them on. And what you're not seeing are all the problems I had. Like I said, I don't do decals often. And there was a lot of bitching and moaning and pulling it off and doing another one. And the fortunate thing is they give you a ton of decals when you're getting them for fingernails. And they also give you a variety of sizes, as you can kind of see there. So I was trying to figure out exactly what the hell I was going to do. Now back to the rumor. Rumor has it that Danny, when they said they'd get him, when the production team for the Partridge family said they would get him the car on one condition, that it had to represent the show. Well, Danny knew that if he was rolling around in a Judge that was completely covered with the Partridge family colors, that was not going to pull chicks. So he argued with him about it, and they settled on having the paint job on the top of the car. Basically the roof, the trunk lid, and part of the hood. They started to do the full hood. It went to crap. I pulled it off twice. Oh, back to the rumor. So they agreed. I apologize for my head being in the picture there. Again, that is not my stomach. It is my forehead getting in the shot. That's another rumor I'm sticking to. Anyhow, back to the video, back to the rumor. So they settled on the roof, the trunk, and across the center of the hood. So that's what I'm trying to recreate here with these fingernail decals. They worked out. I used microset on them. And to be honest, I've never seen decals, and I used to build models years ago. I've never seen decals truly suck into a paint job the way these did. It was fantastic. And that was actually part of the problem. Part of what you don't see with basically the roof, I put one on and ended up pulling it off. And the same thing with the hood. The trunk hood worked perfectly right out of the gate. But I just had a hell of a time with them. And then what would start to happen is the decal itself would start to dissolve on me. It would start to... the coloring would start to break up and the edge of the decal would start to break up. So I ended up pulling those off, and these are the second decal application for both of those. But as part of that, it also, the decals really sucked into the body. And there wasn't a lot of film around the edges. It's almost like it was painted on there. So I couldn't have been any happier with those decals. And I'm probably doing some odds and ends here that I shouldn't be doing, but yeah, that's kind of how I do things. I was trying to get the decal to suck into the hood scoops because the center of the hood line and the scoops, I wanted to keep that detail as much as possible. So you could tell I was using Q-tips and everything else I could find. So while that was all drying, I actually detailed the underside of the body. There's quite a bit of detail on the chassis of the car. The Sharpies are perfect for this. It's really easy to pick out the details with them. I really like the coloring. The silver coloring looks really good. It's not too damn shiny, to be honest with you. You know, a Molotow pen would never work because you don't want the chrome down there. And I actually end up using the Sharpie in other areas on the car that possibly should be chrome, but a lot of times I just don't like that super high gloss. It looks, sometimes it's fantastic, don't get me wrong, but sometimes it just looks fake. Something about the shine is just overwhelming, particularly at this scale. And so the Sharpies work really good for just picking out the details under here. And for the exhaust, yeah, I kind of screwed that up. So then I got out a toothpick to try and clean out the center, and that works. You know, I generally don't do a lot of details under the car, so this was fun, picking the things out. And I need to do this more often. I need to spend more time doing these things. And oh, hey, I'm zooming the camera in. Whoa. That wasn't post-production editing. That was actually live editing. I decided to pick out more details on the car after I had done the original exhaust system. One of the things, I was looking at pictures of the Judge, and this has a black plastic base, and there are black plastic sides, or black sides, that stick out under the body itself when it's put together. And when you look at pictures of the Judge, those are chrome. Those are silver. I believe they're chromed, but they're at least aluminum if they're not chrome. Strips under the doors on both sides. And so I used the same Sharpie to do that to the sides of this too. And it, in my opinion, it really improved the side look of the car. And you'll see that when it's finished, but I thought it gave it a much more realistic appearance than it did when it had the black-edged sides. You know, Danny wants chrome on this car. Dan. Yeah, I know. It's my story, and I'm sticking to it. It may be a rumor, but it's my rumor, and I like it. So, yeah, I'm making you suffer through all of the detailing of the base. It just gives me more of a chance to talk, and you're like, dear God, would he stop talking already? Yeah, I just keep picking away at it. I really like the Sharpie pins. They're really easy for me to use. And there's a silver there, at least the ones that I have, they came in a 3-pack. There was silver, gold, and bronze, which is a really nice combination for these types of things. So there you see how I did the sides. I hadn't done the top edges of the sides, and then when I put the body together to see what it was like, I realized that it needed the top edge too. I'm trying to show you the headlights here. What I did on the headlights, I used this Sharpie silver to detail the bezels for the headlights and for the front fogs. And then what I did is I mixed up those two Citadel paints to come up with, I guess they'd call it a robin's egg blue. I tried to come up with a light, very light blue color to then hit for the headlights themselves in the bezels and for the fog lights themselves. And then I used the Tamiya clear red paint for the tail lights. The Tamiya clear paint is fantastic. I was stupid though, because what I did is I did the silver first, and then I wasn't stupid. I mean, I needed to do it this way. I did the silver first because I wanted that behind the Tamiya red. Then what I ended up doing after doing the Tamiya red is going over the silver again around it, which worked great. Yeah, I busted out the gauzy, and that's for you, Lee. I know you like hearing Paul and I use the word gauzy over and over. So, yeah, dipped it in the gauzy. And even though the glass was brand new, it looks fantastic after you dip it in the gauzy. It was funny when I first did it, and I don't know if I showed that there or not. It went by so quickly. But I dipped it in the gauzy, and then I realized that somehow I picked up a speck of something on the glass, so I just redunked it, and it got rid of it. And so now here we are putting it back together. I did detail the seatbelt buckles on there. Put a little package of condoms in the back seat for Danny. Knew he was going to need them. And put this thing together. Use the self-tapping screws, Phillips head screws. Picked up a ton of those off of eBay a while back. And for this one, the self-tapping screws worked out really well. I did, I forgot to mention earlier, I did put a clear coat over the paint too. After the decals had set, I put a clear coat over it. And that sealed in all the details and the decals. Again, the decals though came out so flat. I've never seen decals like that. So there we have it. Rolls like a son of a gun. Rumor has it that Danny hopped in this car right after he got it. Headed over to the set of the Brady Bunch. Last thing that was heard coming from the back of the car was Marcia, Marcia, Marcia. But it's only a rumor. So there's where we started. I'd like to thank the Three Blind Mice for having these invitationals. They're a kick in the pants. And I can't wait to see what everybody else is building for this. Hopefully I've got the only Bonaduce edition, but hopefully there's some other people with rumors out there that they're telling. Can't wait to hear them. I do really appreciate these builds, though. They're fun. They're a lot of fun, and it's great to see a bunch of people all building their versions of the same casting. The turnout's been fantastic on these, so it works out really well, and it's fun. So there's where we were. Here's where we are. The 1970 Pontiac GTO Judge Bonaduce edition. Hope y'all like this. Be sure and check out all of the other builds. I'm sure there's some absolutely stunning cars being built. It's such a great base to work with. And it's always fun to see. So thank you for watching this video. There's a couple more views coming up and a couple glamour shots. If you don't already subscribe to the channel, please subscribe. If you're already a subscriber, I really do appreciate it. These are a lot of fun to build. And they're an outlet for maybe sometimes a slightly too vivid imagination. Compared to my last build, okay, this is a little wild. See how those decals worked out? I mean, those things just suck down flat. There's like no film edge to them. They just went straight in. Trust me, it's not the clear coat that's hiding it. Those things just blended right in. I couldn't have asked for that to work out better. So I will not sing any Partridge Family songs to close this out. You're very welcome. Thanks again for watching. Catch y'all in the next one. Please check out the other builders too. Take care.